Welcome to my channel, Parabuddies. It is Lucid here, and I apologize for the delay in this video. There was things that came up with both me and my friend Sky, who is not joining us today. They have personal issues, and we're not gonna get into that. Today we will be talking about the really creepy doll, Robert. The doll dates back to the 1900s, where he was gifted to a boy named Eugene Roberts Otis. I believe that's how you pronounce it. Otis? I'm not sure. I'm probably butchering that. But it was gifted to this boy from the housemaid. It worked for Eugene's family, and the doll was handmade by the servant for Eugene. Eugene quickly became attached to the doll, naming it Robert. That Eugene and his parents lived in was called the Artist's Home at 534 Elton Street. I am unsure of where this street is located, but I didn't really go into where it was located. I mainly looked into the story of Robert himself, but I'm sure if you look up the house, it will tell you. The house was built between the dates of 1890 and 1898. The exact date that the house was built is not known. Is the place where Eugene and the doll grew a bond that is very eerie. View from his parents, his neighbors, his friends, it all seemed like Robert the doll was just a normal cloth doll, and Eugene just seemed like a kid that loved playing with toys. The first incident that we know of was when Eugene was only 10 years old. He woke up to find Robert the doll at the end of his bed, which he didn't leave him. Robert the doll was just staring at Eugene, and there was a sound of silence before his mother was awoken by the blood-curdling screams of Eugene. The mother, and worried for her son, she jumped up and ran to Eugene's room, only to walk in on an absolutely horrifying scene. The scene was all of her son's furniture flipped upside down and thrown against the walls. Eugene was cowering in a corner with Robert the doll still sitting at the edge of the bed. The thing Eugene managed to say was the words, "Robert did it." 3 words were heard throughout the entire occurrences between Eugene and Robert. Rob was always, "Robert did it." I was really sure if Robert did it. A lot of people just assumed that Eugene was just being a kid and blaming things on his doll. The idea was soon thrown out the window when Eugene's parents started hearing disembodied giggles and voices and footsteps when Eugene was not around. They'll hear Eugene talking to the doll, but of course, them being parents and Eugene being a kid, at first they thought that this was normal, that Eugene was just being a normal kid talking to his toys. It wasn't until his parents heard a disembodied voice talk back when they started to feel uneased. They thought, it's just Eugene using a different voice. But his mother knew what Eugene sounded like. It was not Eugene, and she knew it was not Eugene. That would respond back was 10 times lower. Eugene being only 10 and not even hitting puberty, it was critically humanly impossible for a kid of that age to go deeper within a voice of range. So Eugene's mother knew something was wrong. Eugene's parents ended up having their own encounters with Robert, saying that they heard giggling or would see the doll's expression changed. There were times when they would leave the doll in one area only for him to be found in a window, where others would also see the doll. It will be more important down the line, so keep that in your head, because there is more to do with this window. The doll continued to live with Eugene until his parents died, only for Eugene to move back in with his wife, Anne. Eugene then decided that Robert needed a room of his own, so he put him in the attic with a window. His wife, Anne, did not like the doll, and she was never sure why. She told Eugene to lock the doll in the attic, which he did. Clearly did not like this decision. Visitors that Eugene and Anne would have over would often say that they would hear childlike footsteps in the attic and little giggles from disembodied voices. Here's where the window comes into play. The window was a round window with an onlook of the street. No curtains, no blinds. Kids and adults would walk by and look at the window and get an eerie feeling that they were being watched, only to see Robert the doll looking out on them, thinking, oh, well, Robert the doll is locked up in the attic. Yes, Robert was locked up in the attic, but this window was not in the attic. It was in the second floor. But there is a window in the attic, right? You're right, there was a window in the attic, but for some reason, the people would always see Robert the doll in the second floor window, not the attic. Kids and adults would go to Eugene telling them about how they would see the doll in the window. Eugene being very confused, remembering he locked Robert in the attic, he went into that room to see what the kids were talking about. He was shocked to see Robert sitting in a chair in the corner of the room. After the occurrence, Eugene would find Robert in the second floor window, and he would continuously, over and over, lock Robert right back up in the attic, only for the cycle to repeat. It gets into the more modern times. Eugene sadly passed in 1947, leaving the house up for sale. Moved in where they had a 10-year-old daughter. Of course, the girl was ecstatic to find Robert the doll. Soon, that excitement subsided, turned into blood-curdling terror within this little girl. Tell her parents about how Robert was evil and wanted to harm her. This girl would wake up in the middle of the night screaming, telling her parents about how Robert the doll would move around in her sleep. Soon after, the parents gave Robert the doll away in East Marlow Fort, where Robert the doll still resides, where people can come and view him. I believe that Robert the doll is possessed, haunted, there's something wrong with this doll, but skeptics still aren't too sure. People would come and see Robert the doll take pictures, only to fall ill or have weird occurrences or bad luck happen to them shortly after. You see, Robert the doll does not like when people take photos of him without his permission. If you ever go and see the doll, do not take a picture without asking. Sometimes people can even take pictures through a screen. Like if you're watching a video, my friend Sky has had this happen to them. Her sister and her were watching a video, and they took a picture of the doll thinking, this can't possibly do something wrong. Well, her sister ended up having a bit of bad fortune directly after taking the picture. Of course, she deleted it, the bad omens stopped. This just seems like a story made up, right? Well, if you go to see Robert the doll, in his glass case, you can see multiple letters of people in the past begging him to lift the curse. This is not some fairy tale or a story told to children to scare them. This is real, and people have experienced this themselves. Even skeptics are scared. Doll doesn't seem like the kind of doll that would necessarily harm a person physically, but more or less mentally. There's been countless of people who have taken pictures and months later have died, but there's no real evidence saying that they died because of Robert. The doll that we all know that kills or causes bodily harm is Annabelle, which is why people put Robert and Annabelle within the same level. You see, back then, the servant had a bit of an issue with Eugene's parents. People think that the servant cursed the doll and gave it to Robert as a way of harming them. People think that Eugene's parents died because of the doll, but that is unknown. We do not know that. You see, people come up with theories to justify these things, but sadly, we do not have proof. This is not science. We can't picture this or make sense of it all, which is why it's so scary to some people. People like me who believe in the supernatural. People who went to the museum often stated that they would have issues with their camera and their phones, only for them to return back to normal once leaving. Now, Robert the doll sits in a glass tank, just as Annabelle, and has not been moved. Workers at the museum have mentioned seeing that Robert had moved positions in the glass case, only for nobody to be around. People who have also come to view Robert the doll or walk through the museum have also mentioned that they've seen facial features change. Much like workers there, they would often have really weird occurrences, often feel sick to their stomach, or kind of lightheaded, get like a headache. But I think it's safe to say that Robert the doll is cursed, or at least has something attached to it. My theory matches up with a lot of other people's. I think that the doll was cursed by the servant, but I also think that the doll has something attached to it. You see, Robert the doll would not be able to move if it was just a normal curse. It has to have at least some kind of spirit or entity within the doll. I think the servant might have made a deal of some sorts, some entity or spirit, and attaching it to the doll. Most people think that the servant has nothing to do with it, but why would the servant give a doll and then immediately leave working for his family directly after? There's been speculation where the doll doesn't even have anything attached to it, that it's just children's imagination. But that doesn't make sense and add up with the encounters that other people have had. All for my theories today. Go ahead, and if you have any theories of your own, or ideas, or even encounters with Robert the doll, or have any other doll stories, please let me know in the comments. I would love to read them. And if you liked this video, consider subscribing. It really helps us out. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day, night, or evening. This was Lucid. Peace.